You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
We've talked about public officials and why they matter, why it's important who is in office. Well, that's also the case in New York City. We've been talking to a number of mayoral candidates. Right now, we want to talk to Kathryn Garcia, who is also running to be the next CEO of New York City. Glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Kathryn.
I'm so thrilled to be with you this evening.
First, going to ask you this here. I'd love for you to comment on what's happening here. Look, you want to be mayor of New York City. If elected, what would you say to your Republican counterpart? What would you say to the mayor of Tulsa when the people here are saying you need to create a victims compensation fund for this community and not have the city be focusing on tourism dollars and being able to generate revenue? What would you say to him?
Yeah, the thing that I would say to him is you have to actually address what happened 100 years ago in a real way, in partnership with communities. And if they are saying, I need you to self-fund some of these things and make sure that this community is really taken care of, that's what you need to do. Your job when you're an elected official is to be listening to your electorate about what they need so that they can have a better life.
Speaking on that, that's one of the things that folks in New York City have been saying. You're running to replace Bill de Blasio as the next mayor of New York City. And so what would you say to African Americans there in New York City? New York City is the largest collection of black folks outside of Africa. What would you say to them as to why they should be voting for you to be mayor of New York?
Yes, and my brother is one of those members of the African-American community because I was adopted, as was he. What I would say is I am about delivering for communities. I'm about making sure that this is a more livable, more affordable city where everyone has economic opportunity in a very intentional way, and that we are making investments in community, whether or not that is free childcare so that women who have taken such a hit in this pandemic can get back to work, whether or not that's affordable housing, new parks, taking care of the current ones in all communities equally, making sure that there's education that is funded in the same way across the city. But the real piece of it is not only my vision for New York of the future, but also the fact that I have a track record about getting it done.
And so one of the things that is critically important that we've been talking about on this show with our segment, Where's Our Money, is a lack of investment that goes to black firms. What will you do to ensure that African Americans are receiving their fair share of the billions of dollars being spent on legal contracts, accounting contracts, investing money in black banks, ensuring the black-owned media in New York are getting city advertising contracts, really looking at race equity and how the billions of dollars being spent at City Hall go to a wide variety of people, and again, to ensure African Americans in New York get their fair share?
We have a $90+ billion budget. I mean, we'll decide in June what next year looks like. And that means that we have to be doing investments in black businesses, and particularly black women-owned businesses. They really don't get a fair share of those contract dollars, but making sure that we're also helping them grow, helping them to go from small companies to big companies and continue to be profitable going forward. And the way that you do that is identifying the opportunity for them to participate and really challenging every single buyer in the city of New York about where their numbers are.
I want to go to my panel. Questions for Kathryn Garcia. Brittany Lewis, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I would love to learn. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. I would love to learn a little bit more about your stance on policing. Do you believe in defunding the police?
My feeling is that we have to have a police department that is keeping everyone safe, regardless of the color of their skin. We are going to have to deal with the fact that we have a very large uptick in gun violence, as well as in hate crime and subway violence. That means we need a police force that is working, particularly around the investigative on the gun violence piece, and that we all feel safe regardless of the color of our skin. But that means reform. You know, you get what you measure. If you are measuring community engagement, you get community engagement. If you measure arrest, that's what you get. And I know what good, transparent, tough discipline looks like. I've done it as a uniform manager. But we also need to make investments in things like cure violence, diversion programs from our criminal justice system, making sure people have a home, not a shelter, but a home, so that they can thrive. And then we're also dealing with the issues of food insecurity.
Next question, Michael Imhotep.
All right, Commissioner Garcia, thanks for coming on today. I know Roland mentioned some issues pertaining to the African-American community, but do you have a African-American agenda to address these issues? And if so, what are 3 or 4 top issues or top items on that African-American agenda?
And foremost is about education and making it so that 4-year-olds no longer take a test, and that we are giving gifted and talented resources in every single school, that we are expanding high schools and using admissions that look at your grade point average. So if you're the best in any school, there are no bad schools out there. We want to make sure that you are getting the best education going forward. But it's also about investing in our small businesses and supporting them and supporting those entrepreneurs. We actually saw some decent data recently about new small Black businesses in the city of New York. And you know what was driving it? The fact that people got stimulus checks. They had enough capital to get them over. And we can do that at the city of New York as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mustafa, your question for Kathryn Garcia.
Commissioner, good to be with you. Have you given any thought to addressing the environmental injustices that still continue to happen in New York City? Asthma rates are about 10% across the city. We know that in African-American and Latinx areas that the rates are even higher, and we understand that when folks are dealing with that significant public health condition, that it extracts opportunities for education, folks being able to go to work, a number of other things. So how will you address the environmental injustices happening there in New York?
Yes, I am very aware of the environmental injustices that have gone on. You know, I banned number 6 fuel oil, particularly problematic in Upper Manhattan and the South Bronx in our asthma belts. You can see the difference in the air quality. Also making sure that we had waste equity, that there weren't transfer stations in only poor brown and Black neighborhoods, and capping those permits. But it is also about creating a more livable city. And by that is, how do we green those neighborhoods, change that air quality, make sure that their housing stock is safe. This is what changes the health of people on the ground. But I also have a robust agenda around ensuring that they have access to health care.
All right, then. Well, Kathryn Garcia, we certainly appreciate you joining us at Roland Martin Unfiltered. Good luck. It's a lot of y'all running, and so it's going to be a tight race to the end. And also, New York, you have ranked choice, correct?
Ranked choice, yes. It's going to be a totally different race this year. So it's you get to pick your top 5.
Top 5, got it. So I absolutely got it. Well, I appreciate it. Good luck. Then we'll see what happens next month.
Thank you much. Great to be on.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.